Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that's full of hope, a ton of questions, and, let's be honest, a lot of myths. We are diving into in vitro fertilization, or IVF. Right, it's a journey so many people think about, but it's also wrapped up in so much misinformation. So let's get into it, separate the facts from the fiction, and really see what it's all about. So, just to make sure we're all on the same page, what even is IVF? Well, at its core, it's a way to help reproduction along. When fertilization has a tough time happening on its own, this process gives it a little helping hand in the lab. Then, the embryo is placed back in the uterus to grow. We've broken this down into 3 parts to make it super clear. First up, we are tackling what's probably the biggest question on everyone's mind, the health of the child. This is such a huge concern, and it makes total sense. I mean, the second you hear the word laboratory, your mind starts to wonder, right? You ask yourself if it could affect a baby's health from the very start. Well, we have some really good news. After decades of research and literally millions of babies being born, the answer is so reassuring. Study after study shows that, overall, kids conceived through IVF are just as healthy as kids conceived naturally. Okay, but let's get into the specifics, because the details really matter. You might hear about a slight increase in certain risks, like low birth weight, but what's so interesting is that research often points back to the parent's original infertility issues, not the IVF process itself. Plus, with modern medicine, like transferring just one embryo at a time, a lot of those risks are way lower. All right, next up is a question that kind of sounds like it's from a sci-fi movie. Does the IVF process actually mess with a baby's genetic code? And the answer to that is a huge, clear no. Think of IVF like a helpful matchmaker, not a genetic editor. It just creates the perfect environment for the egg and sperm to meet. All the genetic material, the DNA, comes straight from the biological parents, exactly like it would naturally. That baby's genetic code is 100% their own unique mix. So we've talked about the baby, which is amazing. Now let's switch gears and focus on the parent's experience. This part of the journey is so personal, and of course it comes with its own set of worries and myths. Oof, this is a tough one. It's so easy to feel like you've somehow failed, or that you're taking an easy way out, but honestly, that point of view could not be more wrong. I just love how this quote flips the whole script. Infertility is a medical condition. That's it. Just like anything else you'd go to a doctor for. So choosing IVF isn't giving up. It's being strong, it's taking action, and it's an amazing act of commitment to building your family. The medical side of things can definitely seem scary, especially when you hear about hormone injections. It's a really common fear that you're signing up for a lifetime of medication. But you can breathe a sigh of relief because that's just not how it works. The hormones used in IVF have a very specific short-term job to do, and it's all designed to get your body ready for one cycle. Exactly. These hormones are basically a tool to help manage that one cycle. They help the body produce more eggs and get the uterus ready for the embryo. And once that part of the process is done, the medication stops and your body goes right back to doing its own thing. Okay, this next question is just filled with so much hope. A lot of people wonder, after going through IVF, is that it? Is the door closed on ever getting pregnant spontaneously? You know, the old-fashioned way? And the answer is yes. It is absolutely possible. It's amazing, actually. There are so many stories of couples who have a baby with IVF and then, surprise, they conceive naturally later on. IVF treats infertility for that one cycle. It doesn't mean it's a permanent state. All right, for our last section, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the process itself. These are the kinds of practical questions that pop up when you start really thinking about IVF as an option. This has to be one of the biggest IVF myths out there, right? The idea that every IVF cycle ends with twins or triplets is just everywhere in movies and TV shows. But the reality of modern fertility treatments is totally different. The goal of IVF is one healthy baby at a time, and the safest way to get there is through a single pregnancy. That's why the standard is now something called single embryo transfer, or SET, which dramatically reduces the chances of having multiples. This is a really personal and important question. In an IVF cycle, you might have more healthy embryos than you actually use, so, what happens to the rest of them? The key thing to know here is that you're the one in control. It's a decision you make with your clinic before the cycle even starts. You can freeze them for the future, donate them to help another family, donate them to science, or you can choose to discard them. It's a super personal choice, and there are several different valid paths to take. And that really just brings everything together so perfectly. There is no one right way to build a family. Every journey is completely unique. IVF is this amazing tool from science that's helped millions, and it is just as beautiful and valid a path as any other. So we've covered the health of the child, the parent's personal journey, and the practical steps of the process. I think it's pretty clear that the reality of IVF is so much more hopeful and empowering than the myths would have you believe. Absolutely. Now, before we sign off, just a quick reminder that our chat today was purely for educational purposes and is definitely not a substitute for professional medical advice. For more detailed information on the entire IVF process, you can check out the portal you see on your screen, ivfforme.com. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today.